May the 12th be with you.
And with you.
And with you also. I am joined today by the one, the only, not to be confused with the great golfer.
No. Yeah, he's above average. Yeah, he's really good.
He's above average?
Yeah, good golfer.
Is he not? He has to be your favorite golfer, though, right?
Absolutely. No, my brother used to send me links all the time of how my score was in the tournament yeah. So if you're listening and you don't know, there is a Corey Connors that is a professional golfer from Canada, and he's amazing.
Yeah. But
that is not me.
He sneaks in a few E's, I think, into his name, right?
Ridiculous.
Not how it's supposed to be spelled, Corey Connors' as parents.
Unnecessary letters.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that, do you play Wordle?
Yes.
Do you have what's your starting word?
Boxes.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Every time. I just thought it was a joke on LinkedIn.
No, real thing.
Oh. All right.
Actually, and I took a lot of heat because I posted the actual word. Kurt Visola was very upset with me. He's like, "Hey man, you got to be careful with that. It's a good thing that I had already solved the puzzle that day."
That's true.
So this thing is like a religion with some people. They have to do it every day.
Every day, yeah. I do it probably once a week. And I don't know. I don't have much of a strategy. Do you have comment before we get going here? We're going to be talking about well, first of all, Avelio set up the the event and then realized his Wi-Fi in Italy, which is where Corey Connors, the golfer, met Avelio for the first time when they were growing up in elementary school. So he's in Milan, so make sure you follow along with all the cool stuff he's got going on there, but his Wi-Fi wasn't working, so Corey and I are left to go alone.
You get us today.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about compostable, what do you say in LinkedIn? Compostable coatings, coral reefs, and the end of circular packaging? Question mark?
Or maybe the beginning. Yeah.
Who knows? Who even? Hey, in light of that opening, do us a favor, drop a comment if you are watching. What is your Wordle starting word? I like boxes. I should go with I would go with label, but the 2 L's is just like I can't risk it.
That's a bad strategy. Yeah,
it is. It would be a bad one. I actually shout out to my mom, Lydia Peak. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and I stole her starting word, which is edu, because it has the A, the I, the E, and the U, so you get to kind of figure out your vowels.
That's a smart person.
Yeah.
Happy Mother's Day to all mothers and mother figures.
Yes.
I think that's important that we mention a lot of people out there who take on the role of the mother and do a great job and aren't technically the mom.
Yeah, exactly. Also, shout out to Megan Young Gamble. She, I believe, has had her first child.
So exciting.
Yeah, so I believe she is a new mom. So everyone go check out I think it's the Product and Packaging Powerhouse podcast. Megan is great. She's been on the show before. She's been on our shows multiple times. She is a wonderful person.
Amazing person. Yeah.
Chris says, no strategy for my first word in Wordle, just throw in the dice.
That's a strategy. I love it.
Hey, speaking of dice and strategies, I found out, this has nothing to do with packaging really, but this is a fun sales thing. So I figured out that you can order custom dice with somebody's picture on it. And so I have a person I've been trying to get a hold of to sit down and talk about packaging. So I put their face and I ordered 6 dice. It's like $30. And I'm going to put it in a little thing and I'm going to deliver it to them and just say hey, you ready to roll the dice on me? We'll see what happens.
I love that kind of fun reach out for a sales pitch. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I will report back on how that goes. All right, so let's see here. I will pull up the share screen. I'm doing my best to drive here, people.
Yeah. We miss Avelio and Charlie.
Not Charlie. He was the worst.
Yeah. I was just trying to be nice.
Yep. I know you were. Oh, should I zoom in on this here? Let me move that over and zoomies. Zoom. Okay. So
enhance.
Compostable coatings, coral reefs in the end of circular packaging. Can we see what else he had said on here? Why is this all that it says?
I think that's all it said.
Wait, more here. Oh, here we go. Okay. Mars goes deeps with coral reef restoration through its Shiba brand. Mars is literally building underwater ecosystems while trialing fully recyclable paper packaging on land. Is this a new benchmark for brand-led sustainability?
Yeah.
Corey, go.
I think they're doing amazing things. Yeah, Allison Long over there is incredible.
Lynn, right?
Allison Lynn is an incredible leader. She's an impressive speaker, brilliant person, and has led the team over there to do really excellent things, brave steps in packaging. And I know these are the kinds of brands that take a lot of heat for their missteps in the past, but I think we need to look at what they're doing today to try and make a positive impact or lower their carbon footprint with these programs.
Yeah. I like that it's highlighting the proactive work that they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, we still make trash in our industry, right? Like we try to do our best to limit
kind of unavoidable, right?
The amount of trash and the impact that the trash has. But you know, I remember when Avelio made a t-shirt that said, on a long enough timeline, it all ends up in the landfill. And it's kind of true. Yeah. And so, you know, taking the initiative and saying, hey, we're going to continue to do proactive stuff in, it looks like here, the building an underwater ecosystem.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, these big, giant, global, multinational brands, they're easy targets for people.
Yep.
And you and I and Avelio have had the opportunity to meet people like Allison, and you forget that there's people behind these brands who are diligently working hard to do the next best thing that they can.
We were talking about the Kind Bar transition to paper packaging last week.
Yeah.
And they're part of Mars. So maybe people don't know that, but they're a part of that conglomerate, and it's a big step forward. You know, she knew immediately who ran that program when I reached out to her, and set me up with them. We're going to do a podcast about it soon.
Sweet.
So very exciting.
I love it. That's really cool. Yeah. So shout out to Mars for continuing to do some great work. Mars is my second favorite planet based company. The first would be my visit to Uranus in Anderson, Indiana. That store was just one big giant pun of it's the Uranus fudge factory.
I have a really quick funny story about Allison Lynn. She was at the Sustainable Packaging Coalition. There was a representative from NASA that was supposed to speak and be one of the keynote speakers, and she wasn't available for some reason. And Allison stepped in and said, well, I guess you couldn't get to the moon, so let's go to Mars together.
That is perfect.
I was so impressed with her joke. I will never forget it. And then she went on to give a brilliant presentation about what they're doing with sustainable packaging, along with Paul Nowak from the SPC. So shout out to her. Shout out to that group. Really cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
All right. Next topic that Avelio queued up for us to talk about that we've definitely researched. Circular dreams versus flexible reality. The 2025 goal for fully recyclable, reusable, or compostable packaging is hitting a snag, which is flexible plastics. We'll break down the real reason circularity might be slipping through the cracks and what comes next. Yeah, this is a tricky topic. I did get to spend a few years working for a really fantastic flexible packaging printing company. It's Fortis Solutions, and we had a lot of requests and printed a lot of compostable is a little that was sort of the claim, right? But flexible packaging. So it was I believe it was
Maybe industrial compostable.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there really wasn't, and maybe they figured this out, but home compostable for packaging is tough
Yeah.
because to
Very
certify that is
stringent.
like what do it because it requires so, such a variation of, heat and
Mhm.
consistency. Like you can't just go qualify everybody's home compost pile.
Right.
I believe that BPI is working on a home compostability certification, so that would be kind of cool. But yes, it was industrially compostable, flexible packaging. And the issue at the time, and maybe this has been solved, I don't know, was the moisture and oxygen barriers
Right.
were
The
not very good.
OTR. Right. Right. Yeah, and I had that conversation with we talked to Michael from Rotten about that.
Yep.
They wanted to use compostable packaging because their brand is called Rotten, and that makes sense that their packaging would rot away. And that was a really neat marketing ploy. But what it caused was product to go stale quickly, and it failed. It didn't work. It wasn't a success for their brand.
Mhm.
So we've talked about this many times. There's nothing sustainable about rotten food, which is kind of a pun we used when he was on. But we need to look at performance first. Then we need to look at circularity, recyclability, compostability, whatever the next step is. And the problem with all of this is there's no access to recycling for plastic curbside. At least for most of us in the country. And we always come at it from a perspective of the USA because that's where we live and that's what we know the most about. But we know this is a global issue too.
Yeah. The thing that's always been interesting to me, and maybe shout out a company if you know that they've solved this. Like we talked about with the Kind bars, that was a big problem with paper-based
Mhm.
flow wraps for those types of packaging was the barrier properties and the sealing, the dwell time and the sealing temperatures and all that kind of stuff. So it sounds like Mars and PrintPack solved that to some level. So would love to. It'll be exciting to hear more about what they're saying.
2 years of effort there to do
It's
that.
crazy. So if you think about it though, for something to start to compost, it's meant to start breaking down.
Right.
And so if it's meant to break down and you need it to withstand
Right.
moisture, but moisture is meant to break it down. I mean, I studied business at Colorado State University. I'm not a chemist,
It's counterintuitive for
but it
sure.
just feels a little
Yeah.
counterintuitive to me,
Mhm.
right? Like the
Yep.
reason that these flexible plastics are so great for these applications is because they persist, is
Right.
because they last, is because they don't succumb to the peer pressure of oxygen and moisture. It's like, no, you stay away from me. All right. I don't want you touching my product. They're great bodyguards
Yeah.
for the product. And if you start like just kind of letting the friends in, then it 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 deteriorates the product. So
Yeah.
it's a tricky one. And I agree with the question here. I don't I think that's a giant barrier to
No pun intended.
circularity, right?
Yeah.
For flexible packaging.
It's the biggest issue we're trying to solve right now, and this is what everybody wants to talk about when you go to events. It's coatings for paper, it's coatings for mono materials, and I think this is the number one question I'm getting. These are the meetings I'm having every day, is with companies that have developed a new coating or are in trials with a new coating, and we'll see what kind of rises to the top and actually works.
Yeah. Chris says Starbucks is testing and rolling out new compostable cups in London as part of a global push to reduce single-use plastic waste.
Yeah.
Great. I have zero. I'm excited when people start to push the envelope. And the reason that I think, well, I have mixed feelings on compostability, honestly,
Yep.
because
Me too.
on the one hand, let's say this gets the worst case is that it's solving for, I think, is this cup gets dropped on the street and ends up in nature.
Right.
And so if that happens, it can break down. But what happens when it breaks down is it, I believe, releases methane.
Right. And I like the point that you've made many times is what if people assume that all coffee cups now are compostable and they just start throwing them out the window when they're driving? That becomes a behavior change in the world. And we don't want to do that. This goes back to using banana leaves in Asian culture as packaging, and to this day there are people that still think that all packaging can be treated like banana leaves. And this is a problem. This is something we need to educate, and I think it's probably the number one issue in packaging and sustainability is education.
Yeah, and we haven't helped ourselves with the ubiquitous nature of resin codes on everything, and everybody just assumes that means that it's recyclable. Yeah, this is a great point from Dennis. I hope the cups don't fall apart like the paper straws. I think paper straws, again, like if we talk about function, the majority of paper straws or like hay straws or whatever, they just lack in functionality. And I think that's why they got so much pushback, which was a shame. I think it was a shame because I think they got pushed out too quickly. Largely because we saw marine life that were being impacted by plastic straws, and totally understand that. But, I thought that's a great point, right? Like, again, I do a lot of consulting with brands, and I walk them through what I call the 4 Ps of sustainability. I don't have to go through all of them, but the number one is, does it protect the product? That is the absolute most sustainable thing that any material can do in packaging is, will it protect the product? If there's multiple materials, and likely there are, then you can start to step down into what's its impact on the planet. Does it resonate with your people, which is your brand? And then also, can you make a profit? Because like you said, there's nothing sustainable about food waste. There's nothing sustainable about going out of business.
Right.
All right. Last topic here that Avelio is making us talk about. You brought this up, compostable coatings, new developments in monomaterial coatings and functional compostables are changing how we think about performance and end-of-life design. Could this be the breakthrough that replaces multi-layer flexibles?
Yeah.
Have you seen any cool coating? You were just at the SPC conference.
Yeah, there are some really exciting brands that are making new coatings for paper and plastic materials that will allow them to be used as a monomaterial. And they are still considered curbside recyclable if they're paper, and store drop-off recyclable if they're plastic still, which is wonderful. And they're going to perform like those multi-layer films, which is, I think that's the future. I keep talking about it. I keep discussing it. I keep researching it. The answer is yes, that's happening. It's here now. And companies like Mars are using those materials to successfully after years of effort. And this goes back to something, I don't remember who said this, but somebody basically said, hey, give us a break. Plastic's been doing this for 50 years. We need some time to catch up, and I think that was really insightful. But it's going to take time to develop these technologies and to develop these circular systems. I was very excited to go to some of these soft plastics talks at SPC, and then left very disappointed because the answer is we're not ready yet to recycle these. And frankly, the material isn't valuable enough to recycle. I think the numbers were 10x or 8x of what recycling paper is. And it's just, we're not there yet.
Totally agree. The interesting thing, this is off topic. Sorry, Avelio /AI. He definitely, all right. This was definitely written by Avelio. Doesn't write like this. No. It's fun when he's not on here because he can't defend himself. So let's see here. Check out American Ganapati says, check out American Coding Association for the latest updates. Thank you. That's awesome.
That's
I didn't
great.
know
Thank
that.
you, sir.
I didn't know that was a thing. So this isn't on our topic, but it's around flexible packaging. And I've been thinking about this dynamic. This is an interesting sort of thing, and I think we have enough time today to sort of break this down. If you increase the amount of plastic in something, right, so that it becomes more rigid, that is now recyclable, right? If it's PET and you put more plastic in there, it becomes a bottle or it becomes a big giant container, a tub with a lid on it and a foil induction seal. Now you have a recyclable thing. If you lightweight that all the way down in the same sort of PE material, could even be a mono PE material with a foil barrier, that is now non-recyclable for the most part.
Because it's too small, because it's
Because
less
it's
than
too
3
thin.
inches.
Or, I mean, I'm not saying like shrink down the size. I'm just saying like if you have a let's say it's protein powder and you put it in a big tub versus a similar size flexible pouch, that flexible pouch is now typically non-recyclable curbside. Well, it is. It's non-recyclable curbside where the tub is. And the thing that's changed with these is the amount of plastic used, right? Same thing with if you look at an aluminum can. An aluminum can has ink, it has aluminum, and it has a plastic coating. So if you were to make that, if you were to like condense down that aluminum into a metallized foil with a plastic liner and a print layer, that's now a pouch,
Right.
non-recyclable. So we look at maybe the big tub, or we look at the can and we say, good, this is curbside recyclable. But the trick is that like if you were to lightweight it and make it less expensive and make it probably have a better LCA, honestly.
Often, yeah.
If you were to do that, now that's bad because of the end of life.
Yeah, with the exception of when you look at the cradle to cradle, when you're going full cycle and looking if it's recyclable, the LCA will be better. So I think that has a lot to do.
Help the LCA, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the LCA will be better on a whole. Just it does help it out. But have you ever thought about that interesting dynamic that our recycling tends to be based on creating more weight and using more material because that's how we can recycle? It's to me, and I understand why, but it makes this conversation very difficult, I think.
100%. Yeah, it's the old adage, do you want to lightweight it all the way to where it barely performs enough and just survives and to one point and then it's garbage, or do you want to make it a little more stout and make it reusable, or do you want to look at the form factor and say, yes, this will be recycled? HDPE canister is most likely going to get recycled in most MRFs in North America because the system will pull those out. And I've seen the bales at MRFs. They're HDPE is getting recycled, and it's very popular and it's a valuable product. Whereas multi-layer film for pouches is waste right now. For the most part. Now you can use a TerraCycle program where they will downcycle into building materials or things like that. There are other things that can be done to quote unquote upcycle or downcycle or recycle, but those require collection and consolidation.
I just think that I totally agree with those points. And, I brought this up at Costco. I put on LinkedIn, which of these is more sustainable? And there's a good conversation going on because the point is that brands are trying to solve this and consumers are trying to make these decisions.
Right.
And that's why we've done between the two of us and Avelio over 1,400 podcast episodes between this. And most of them, we end up talking about this topic because it's just so complicated. Like,
right.
And anytime, and I've seen people saying this where it's like they pick a material and then they hang their hat on this one material and they say this is the best.
Right.
And if you're doing that, then
That's
you're
the
only going
problem.
to find data that's going to support why your material is the best. And I forget this person's name, but there's somebody who just keeps coming up in my feed talking about how great glass is and how glass is the best material. And I'm like, glass is fine, or aluminum is fine. Like, these are all fine materials, but let's stop it with the, like, this is the only material, like, thus saith the Lord, all this kind of like,
We
it's
must use
crazy.
this, right?
It's crazy to me that we're still in this world where all we want to do is just prop up the material that we oftentimes sell. And I'm going to make a video today about this idea. Like,
Good point.
you have to try. You can't trust don't trust the information explicitly if somebody has something to sell you. So,
right. And if those people only sell that one material, that becomes very obvious.
Yeah.
And those are my least favorite presentations at packaging events, when someone is, all they're talking about is why X material is better than Y material, and we're right and they're wrong, and here's all the reasons. I just get very little value out of those unless they have specific real world explanation.
Yeah, we can't just switch everything from plastic to glass or from plastic to aluminum cans, and the world's going to be like, all the problems are going to be solved in the world.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that is it for our show today, Corey. We figured out a way to talk through Avelio's talking points.
Shout out to Avelio. Thanks for arranging it.
Yeah. And please follow Avelio's page. I saw he's got a bunch of events planned to talk about what he's learning in Milan. And so that should be pretty educational and informative. And we will be back. I'm guessing it's just Corey and I, but maybe Avelio will be jumping on tomorrow morning, and we will have the best topic in the world. You know what we should do? Let's talk about glass. Let's talk about glass packaging, the pros and cons of glass, and see where that takes us.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Bye. We'll see you. Bye.